Welcome back to another deep dive. And I want to start today by asking you to visualize something incredibly mundane, something just really, truly boring.
Ooh, setting the bar high right out of the gate. I like it.
I try. So picture a math classroom. You are 12 years old. It is 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Tuesday.
The absolute worst time of the week.
Exactly, the absolute doldrums of the week.
Mm.
There's a chalkboard. There is that smell of dust in the air. And there is a number 4 written on the board in that weird, squeaky yellow chalk. It is just sitting there. It is a fact. It is static. It is dead.
Right. It is the ultimate symbol of case closed. 4 is 4. It is not 5. It doesn't have feelings. It doesn't have a backstory. It is a tool we use to count apples or dollars, and once we are done with it, we just put it back in the mental drawer.
Yeah, that is the exact assumption we build our entire reality on, that facts are cold, hard, and unmoving. We love numbers because they do not change. But today we are going to look at a set of documents that claims that assumption is dead wrong.
Dead wrong, yeah.
We are looking at a source that suggests that the number 4 on that chalkboard is actually alive, that it is emotional, and it is merely the tip of a multidimensional iceberg that stretches back through infinite realities.
And if that sounds like we have completely lost our minds or perhaps inhaled way too much of that chalkboard dust, well, we are in good company. Because we're diving into the Seth Material today.
Yes, we are.
Specifically, we are cracking open the early sessions, book 9. We are looking at session 431.
And before we get into the heavy metaphysics of it all, we really should set the table properly. Just as a reminder, this deep dive is distributed free of charge on all major platforms for educational purposes.
Absolutely.
Our mission here is simple. We read the incredibly dense stuff so you don't have to, or rather, so you know exactly where to start when you want to dig in yourself.
And I have to say, this particular session, session 431, is dense. It is not the usual self-help advice or the broad spiritual philosophy that Seth is often known for.
Not at all.
This is Seth acting as a professor of impossible physics.
It really is. So the date of record is August 26, 1968. It is a Monday night. We are in Elmira, New York. And I really want to set the scene here because the vibe of this session is, well, it's odd.
Very odd.
It is not a cozy, warm chat around the fireplace. It feels a lot more like a seance meets a doctoral thesis defense.
That is a perfect way to describe it. It is 9:100 p.m. when the session officially begins, but the lead up to that moment is crucial. Jane Roberts, the medium, is sitting in her rocking chair. Her husband, Robert Butts, is ready with his pen and paper taking the dictation, but Jane is not relaxed.
No, she's experiencing something she calls the pyramid feeling. Now look, I have had bad headaches, I have had stiff necks, but this sounds entirely different.
It is a recurring phenomenon for her, but it usually signals that something really heavy is coming down the pipe. She describes it as an intense, subjective sensation of a pyramid structure, and she feels like she is the fulcrum.
Wait, the fulcrum, like the balance point.
Yes, exactly the balance point. She describes a physical need to hold her head perfectly, absolutely still. She literally feels like she is performing a physical balancing act in that rocking chair.
See, that is so interesting to me because it implies weight. We usually think of thoughts or spirits or channeled messages as these airy, weightless things, just ethereal whispers. But she is describing the signal as having actual mass, like she is balancing a stack of heavy encyclopedias on her head.
Or perhaps tuning a very heavy rusted radio antenna.
Yeah.
If she moves her head a millimeter to the left or a millimeter to the right, the connection wavers.
Right.
It creates this fascinating image of the physicality of mediumship. It isn't just closing your eyes and opening your mouth to speak. It is a physical endurance test for her body.
And she knows something big is coming. At 9:10 p.m., which is just a single minute before the trance completely takes over, she tells Robert, I think I'm going to get the other one.
The other one, I have to tell you, that gives me a bit of a chill every single time I read it.
Who was the other one? Is Seth not just Seth?
Well, Seth is a very complex personality essence. Usually he comes through with this booming, jovial familiarity. He jokes around, he smokes cigarettes, he drinks wine through Jane's physical body.
Right, he's kind of the life of the party usually.
Exactly. But occasionally, for the really complex, high-level instruction, this larger profile steps forward.
And Robert's notes describe the voice changing completely when this happens.
Yes, the voice becomes high, thin, very distant.
High and thin, very clear but distant. I think that is the exact quote from the notes. It sounds so clinical.
It is intensely clinical. There are long pauses between the words. It is like receiving a transmission from a satellite that is 3 galaxies away. The signal is crystal clear, but there is a massive delay.
Yeah.
And this voice, this high Seth, He does not want to chat about your personal problems. He isn't here to ask how your day at work was.
No, definitely not. This voice wants to talk about the secret life of the number 7,
Mm-hmm.
which honestly feels like a bit of a bait and switch to me.
How?
Well, you get this spooky, high-frequency cosmic entity on the line. The room's completely tense, and he wants to teach arithmetic. It feels like getting called into the principal's office to talk about fractions.
I get that, but that is the genius of it. He isn't actually teaching arithmetic. He is using arithmetic to entirely deconstruct our perception of reality.
Okay, fair enough.
He starts with this very direct opening argument. Let us discuss numbers in terms of identities.
Okay, let us unpack that right away.
Hmm.
Numbers in terms of identities. Because usually a number is just a tool. I use a hammer to hit a nail. I use a 7 to count apples. I don't have to hammer how it's feeling today. I don't ask the number 7 about its childhood trauma.
Right, but Seth argues that numbers, while they are abstract to us, are the absolute perfect analogy for human consciousness. He explicitly says, one number, for example 7, can be considered itself as an identity.
So the number 7 isn't just a value. 7 is a being.
In a metaphysical sense, yes. Think about it this way. You can take the number 7 and break it down. You can make it from a 3 and a 4. You can make it from a 5 and a 2.
Or infinite combinations of fractions.
Exactly. But Seth points out that even when 7 becomes part of a calculation or is formed by all these other numbers coming together, it is always itself.
It never loses its 7-ness.
Precisely. And here is where it gets really fascinating as an analogy for human relationships. Seth uses the example of 3 and 4 adding up to 7. He says 3 and 4 will add to 7, yet 3 and 4 are their identities and will always be so in your terms.
Yeah, I want to challenge that for a second.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, if I mix yellow paint and blue paint to make green, the yellow and blue are effectively gone. They are consumed by the process. They are the green paint now. Isn't that what addition is? Just consumption.
That is exactly the flatland view of reality that Seth is trying to break us out of. We view addition as a chemical reaction where the original ingredients are destroyed or lost. Seth views it much more like a social gathering.
Like forming a band.
Like forming a band? Yes. You have John, Paul, George, and Ringo. They come together to form the Beatles. Now, the Beatles is an identity. It is a 7.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It is a solid thing. It has a legacy, a distinct sound, a vibe. But John is still John. Paul is still Paul. They do not melt into a biological soup and disappear just because they joined a group.
So the 7 is a completely new structure, a new identity. But its creation does not erase the components that built it. They all exist at once.
Correct. The individual, the 3 and the 4, and the collective, the 7, are both entirely valid, existing simultaneously. They aren't fighting for space in reality.
That is a surprisingly deep social commentary, coming from a supposedly dry math lecture. It is the ultimate argument for individualism within a community. You can be part of the whole without losing yourself.
It is. But then Seth takes a very sharp turn toward the spooky side of things. We have to talk about 0 and the minus numbers.
Yes. The numbers on the other side of 0. The Stranger Things universe of math. I was dreading this part.
Seth calls this a time of relative non-being.
Relative non-being. That sounds like a total paradox. Either you be or you don't be.
And Seth actually admits that our language completely fails us here. He points out a paradox in our own daily logic. We use a minus sign all the time. -5, -10. We call them negative, implying they do not exist or they represent a complete lack of something.
Like being in debt.
Right. But Seth says the paradox is that the numbers, therefore, cannot be conceived of as not being, so the minus sign is used.
Oh, I see. To talk about something, you have to fundamentally admit it exists. Even if I say I have -5 apples in my bank account or whatever, the concept of -5 is a real, tangible concept I am holding in my head. I cannot hold a literal nothing in my head.
Exactly. They represent identity in a state of relative non-being. They aren't gone, they are just dormant or inverted.
Inverted, yeah.
It is a state of existence that is defined purely by its relation to the on state. It challenges our strict binary view of existence versus non-existence. Seth implies it is all existence, just operating in different modes or frequencies.
It really is like the upside down in that TV show. The minus numbers are just the regular numbers living in the upside down. They are there, they are real, but they are in this shadow state of identity.
That is actually not a terrible analogy at all. It implies a mirror world, which fits the material.
I will take the compliment. But let's move to the real meat of this session, because this is the visual that legitimately kept me up last night, staring at the ceiling. Let's get into segment 3, multidimensional math. The row of ones.
This is the absolute core concept of the session. If you take nothing else away from this deep dive today, take this specific visual. Seth argues that our current mathematics is not nearly understood.
Not nearly.
He says we are trying to understand the universe using rigid 3D math, but we cannot initiate fourth and fifth dimensional mathematics from inside our own closed system.
He calls it flatlanders, basically.
Effectively, yes. He says we treat numbers as flat units, we add them, subtract them, move them around on the paper, and we think that is all there is. But we are entirely missing their intensities.
Intensities. That is the key word for this whole section. So Seth gives us this analogy to help us visualize what we are missing. And I want everyone listening to try this right now. Close your eyes if you are safe to do so. Obviously not if you're driving.
Please don't close your eyes if you're driving.
Right. But picture the number 1, just a standard black font number 1 sitting on a stark white page.
Now, Seth says, pretend then that behind or within, but unseen by you. Behind or within the number 1, for example, there are an infinite number of other ones, lined up, so to speak, behind the one that you see.
Okay, let's stop there and really visualize that. I am looking at the number 1, but the paper isn't a solid wall anymore. It is a window. And behind that one, stretching back into the depth of the dark, is a massive conga line of other ones.
Infinite ones, a queue that literally never ends. And here is the crucial distinction Seth makes. The one you see on the page is just the front man. It is the representative that shows up in our physical reality. But that line stretching back, those aren't copies.
They aren't photocopies.
Yeah.
It's just 1, 1, 1, 1.
No, Seth is very specific about this. He says the ones behind are not serial, nor identical, nor duplicates. They are variations.
Wait, variations of what? 1 is a 1. If it varies, doesn't it become a 1.2 or a 0.9?
And that right there is thinking in terms of value. Seth is asking us to completely shift gears and think in terms of intensity.
Define that for me, because intensity is a pretty fuzzy word in this context.
Okay, think of it like a musical note. You can play a middle C on a piano keyboard. That is the value, the identity of the note. But you can play that middle C very softly.
Yeah.
You can play it aggressively, hammering the key. You can play it on a violin. You can play it on a heavily distorted electric guitar. It is always middle C. The identity remains exactly the same. But the intensity, the texture, the emotional quality of that note is infinitely variable.
Oh, wow. Okay, that clicks perfectly. So the one I see written on the page is just the middle C played on a very generic synthesizer. It's the standard default setting for my physical world. But behind it, stretching back into dimensions I cannot see, is the one played on a cello. The one played as a terrifying scream.
Yeah.
The one played as a gentle whisper.
Yes, yes. Infinite versions of that identity, all existing simultaneously. And the one that shows up in our physical 3D world, the front man, is just the one single version that happens to fit the frequency of our reality at this exact moment.
That is wild. It is like the number 1 has infinite alter ego standing directly behind it, shielding them from our view.
And it gets even more dynamic than just a static line. Jane Roberts, while she was actively channeling this part of the session, started using these very specific physical hand gestures. She was spreading her arms wide open and then clapping her hands together.
Right, expanding and contracting.
Seth explains through her that this line of numbers, this infinite tail, can stretch out indefinitely into the distance, or it can snap together into a single dense unit. He calls it expansion and contraction.
Like breathing.
Yeah, like respiration. He says this pulsing movement is an inherent quality of all units. It has absolutely nothing to do with addition or subtraction.
Right, because we think numbers only change when we do math to them.
Exactly. Seth is saying numbers are alive. They are moving, breathing, and pulsating entirely on their own, whether we are calculating them or not.
So when I write a 1 on my grocery list to say I need 1 carton of milk, that 1 is actually a multidimensional entity that is actively pulsing and has an infinite tail of variations sticking out into the astral plane.
According to session 431, yes, your grocery list is heavily multidimensional.
That makes my grocery list feel way more important than it has any right to be. But let's complicate this visual even more. What happens when we put 2 numbers together? Seth talks about the number 12.
Right, so take your number 1 with its breezing, infinite tail of variations. Place a number 2 right next to it, which also has its own entirely separate infinite tail of variations.
Okay, so now I have 2 endless conga lines standing right next to each other on the page.
Precisely. They sit side by side to create the new identity. 12. But Seth says that the intensities, the stuff in the tails behind the front men, it can actually shift and change positions.
Like they do dancing with each other.
In a way, yes. The intensities can swap places, interact, and constantly reorganize behind the scenes without ever breaking the identity of the 12 on the surface. To us, looking at the chalkboard, it still looks like a solid 12. But the internal makeup, the energetic structure supporting that 12, might be completely different from 1 millisecond to the next.
This breaks my brain a little bit, I'm not going to lie.
Yay.
It means that consistency is a total illusion. The 12 I see right now looks exactly the same as the 12 I will see 5 minutes from now, but the ghosts supporting it might have completely reshuffled their order.
And that right there is exactly why Seth says our modern physics is stuck. Which leads us perfectly into the next part of the session. Segment 4, the problem with physics and perception.
Yeah, Seth throws a fairly significant bit of shade at the scientific community here. He basically says, look, your physicists are incredibly smart, but they are hitting a brick wall.
He says the blockage occurs because the symbols we use to portray reality, meaning our math, our complex formulas, are themselves limited by the reality we already know.
I love the metaphor he uses here. He calls our symbols keys.
Keys that will only fit your own doors.
That is such a good line. You can open endless doors with them, but only doors within your own system.
Think about a video game. You can find a master key in a video game that opens literally every door in that specific game world. You can explore every room, every hidden level, every dark dungeon. But can that master key open your actual front door in the real world?
No, of course not.
Okay.
It is a digital key. It is made of pixels. It doesn't work in physical reality.
Exactly. Seth is saying our current math is the master key for the physical universe game. It works beautifully here. We can build massive bridges, we can fly rockets to the moon, we can split the atom.
Right.
But if we try to use that exact same math to explain what is outside the game consciousness, the afterlife, multidimensionality, it completely fails. Because it is a tool made entirely out of the game's code.
It is like trying to describe a perfect 3D cube using only 2D stick figures. You can draw a million stick figures on a piece of paper, you can make them hold hands in a square, you can stack them up, but you will never, ever create a true cube. You just end up with a really crowded page of flat stick figures.
And that is exactly how Seth describes our human perception. He says we perceive the number 1 as a flat line on a flat surface. We are currently unable to perceive the intensity or the deep multidimensional depth within that simple unit.
And he drops a hint here that I find super intriguing. He says that other dimensional realities do actually appear in our system, but we just do not recognize them.
Because we are entirely focused on the surface level. We
Right.
see the front man, the simple number on the page, and we just assume that is all there is to see. If a massive fourth dimensional object passed straight through our world right now, we would only see a 3D slice of it.
Yeah, we wouldn't say, oh, look, a multidimensional traveler.
No, we would just say, hey, that rock over there just changed shape really weirdly, and then we would move on with our day.
So we are constantly surrounded by magic, by these deep intensities, but we are too obsessed with the flatness of things to actually see it.
We are functionally blind to the true depth of reality.
Okay, I am with you on the breathing numbers. I can visualize the infinite conga line of ones. But I have to be the skeptic for a second and ask the rude question.
Go for it.
So what? Why does it matter if a number has a secret life? I'm not a mathematician. I don't calculate orbital trajectories for NASA. How does knowing this help me pay my mortgage or live my life?
It helps because Seth isn't actually talking about math at all. He is using math as a Trojan horse.
A Trojan horse for what?
For you, for the very nature of the human soul and your own personal identity.
Go on, lay it on me.
Well, Seth says explicitly right at the start, let us discuss numbers in terms of identities. He is building a mental model for us. If a number, which is a simple, basic unit of reality, has a front face that we see and an infinite tail of variations that we don't see, then so do you.
Okay, so I am the number 1.
You are the front man. You are the specific version of you that is compatible with this physical reality, with the year 2026, with the laws of gravity, with paying taxes.
Right.
But standing right behind you, metaphorically within you, is that exact same infinite line.
The variations of my intensity.
Yes. The you that made the other choice 5 years ago, the you that is vibrating at a much higher frequency, the you that exists in a reality where time doesn't even move linearly, they aren't separate, disconnected people, they are you. Just like the infinite ones in the line are all still the number 1.
That is heavy. And Seth mentions that To really understand this, to feel it, we have to get completely outside of time. He talks about an upcoming exercise for experiencing no time.
Yes. He promises Jane and the listeners that they can learn to experience no time. The goal of the exercise is to feel what it is actually like to be a personality outside the context of linear time. But he gives a very stern warning with it.
A pretty chilling one, honestly. He says old familiar props will not be available.
Think about how much of our sanity relies on time. We say things like, I'll do this later. That bad thing happened yesterday. It's over. I am 5 minutes late.
Time is the scaffolding of our entire existence.
It is the scaffolding of our sanity. Seth is saying, to see who you really are, to see the line behind you, we have to violently kick that scaffolding away.
It is like being dropped in the middle of the dark ocean without a boat. No landmarks, no horizon, just pure being. It is terrifying, but also kind of exhilarating.
It is the only way to perceive the conga line of identity. You have to stop looking at the sequence of moments, 1, then 2, then 3, and start looking deep into the depth of a single moment.
Well, speaking of depth and abrupt transitions, let's talk about how this session actually ended. Because it wasn't a gentle namaste, see you next week kind of goodbye. Let's look at segment 6, Jane's reaction.
No, the disconnect was incredibly violent. Robert's notes say, without warning, Jane stopped speaking. Her head fell back against the rocker. The break was abrupt and unannounced.
She actually describes it as, boom, it's gone. 1 second she is channeling cosmic multidimensional math, and the next second she is just Jane sitting in a chair in Elmira, New York.
And she was deeply disoriented. The notes say she was physically patting the top of her head. She told Robert, I keep trying to stuff all of myself back inside my head.
That is such a visceral, intense image. Like, her consciousness had expanded so much to accommodate this massive row of one's concept that her energy literally did not fit inside her skull anymore.
Because she had briefly touched that actual depth, she wasn't just talking about it, she was experiencing it. She told Robert she saw angled shafts of light.
Throwing your consciousness into angled shafts of light. That sounds like the title of a 70s prog rock album.
It really does. But it suggests that consciousness isn't just a fluffy cloud or a hazy ghost. It is a geometric projection. It has sharp angles. It has structural shafts. It interacts with these intensities of numbers in a very mechanical, structural way.
It really reinforces the idea that this isn't just fluffy, vague spirituality. This is a hard mechanics of reality that is simply too complex for our current science to map out.
And there is a very humorous, very relatable moment right at the end here. Jane is not a mathematician at all. She actually complains that the part of her sitting in the chair doesn't know anything about numbers.
She's basically like, guys, I failed high school algebra. Why am I doing this?
Exactly. But she felt the personality, Seth, pushing her like mad to get the data exactly right. She felt this intense urgency to articulate concepts that she intellectually did not understand in the slightest, but intuitively grasped perfectly while in the trance.
She felt the ideas were coming way too fast to speak. She told Robert she thought she was speaking a mile a minute, just rapid fire. But Robert noted that her vocal delivery was actually quite slow and measured.
That is classic time distortion. She was experiencing the no-time state while simultaneously trying to explain it in a time-bound world. To her, inside the trance, the information was a raging flood. To the observer in the room, it was a slow trickle. That is the physical bottleneck of the human brain.
So we have covered the breathing numbers, the failure of modern physics, the conga line of our own identities, and Jane's expanding skull. What does this all mean for us as we walk away today? Let's synthesize this.
The main takeaway is this. Reality is infinitely deeper than it looks. We walk around every day thinking the world is made of flat, solid surfaces. Objects, people, numbers on a page. But absolutely everything has depth. Everything has a tale of infinite variation that we just cannot see with our physical eyes.
We are essentially ice skating on the surface of a very deep, frozen lake. We see the ice, the ones and twos, the yous and me's, but beneath that thin layer of ice is this dark, infinite ocean of multidimensional intensities.
And our keys, our science, our daily logic, they are just scratching the very surface of that ice. They cannot unlock the water below.
It is a chilling thought, but honestly, it is also kind of deeply hopeful. It means we are so much more than we think we are. We aren't just this one lonely, struggling version of ourselves paying bills and sitting in traffic. We are a massive, multi-dimensional team.
We are the solid 7, entirely unaware of the 3 and the 4 that compose us behind the scenes.
I love that. I really do. Now, before we let you go, to ponder your own multi-dimensional existence, we want to give credit where it is definitely due. The source material for today's deep dive was session 431 of the Seth Material, which is published by the New Awareness Network.
Yes, and if your brain is itching right now in a good way, we highly encourage you to go directly to the source. Don't just take our word for it, read the actual books.
You can find all of them at sethcenter.com/early-sessions. Seriously, go check it out. It is a rabbit hole completely worth falling down.
And remember, this deep dive is distributed free of charge for educational purposes. We do this because the keys need to be shared, even if they don't quite fit all the doors yet.
I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over tonight as you go to sleep. We spent a lot of time talking about the number one having an infinite line of variation standing right behind it. And we established that you are an identity, just like a number. So turn around, metaphorically speaking, look behind you.
Yeah.
What infinite variations of you are standing right there, unseen, at this very moment? Are you the happy version today, the sad version? Or are you just the front man, the only one visible in this specific dimension, totally unaware of the endless conga line of yous stretching far back into the cosmos?
And if you turn around fast enough, can you catch them looking back at you?
Probably not. But it is really fun to try. Thanks for listening to this deep dive. We will see you in the next dimension.
Good night, everyone.